It's the real word. It's the real word. It's the real word. It's the real word.
We on a mission and that's bringing y'all the truth. You know the problem, but we get into the root. The devil watching, yeah, he always on pursuit. But Jesus is our rock, so we shall not be moved. We on a winning team, so we can't lose. We say facts, cause we hitting y'all with proof. Started from the bottom, now we standing on the roof. As God as our witness, we gon' make it to the moon. When you want the truth, the world be hiding it. This the real word, we providing it. We got Ace, BK, Truth, Rick Star, and we plan to make a movie like it's Pixar. We came a long way from the plantation. We just tryna save your souls from damnation. So if you down with the message, tune in every week. It will lead you to the message that you seek.
It's the real word. It's the real word. It's the real word. It's the real word.
Real Word Season 9, Episode 30. Shout out to everybody that's been watching. Shout out to everybody that's been supporting. We're in the month of November, so you already know what that is. This is our 7th annual turkey drive. Shout out to everybody that has helped us throughout these years with this turkey drive, and shout out to all the people that have supported our turkey drive and will continue to support the turkey drive. So this year, everybody, the flyer will be up soon for our annual turkey drive. Last year we gave away over 200 turkeys. This year you want to do another 200. So you can always support. Cashapp is $therealwordinc. That's $therealwordinc. Or PayPal, The Real Word Ministries Inc. on the PayPal Giving Fund. That's The Real Word Ministries Inc. You can also do it on GoFundMe, The Real Word Ministries on GoFundMe, or our website at www.therealwordministriesinc.org. I'm here with 3 special guests. Introduce yourselves, gentlemen.
I'm Scott Homan. I directed a movie called Witness Underground. We're here because we have a Kickstarter, and we have our co-producer and the main subject of our film here. Go ahead, guys.
Anthony, can you want to go next? I can go last, or I guess I'm already
Okay,
talking.
you can go last. Hi, I'm Anthony Mathenia. I'm co-producer on the Witness Underground documentary. I'm also a producer on documentaries by Outlaw Film. And you can check out on Tubi right now another film I worked on. It's called Nightlife. It's about a ministry presence in St. Louis and violence interruption. So that's Nightlife on Tubi. And I'll push it over to Ryan.
And I am Ryan Sutter. I am the owner-operator of a media production company called Nuclear Gopher. I'm one of the subjects of the Witness Underground documentary. And I'm also a recording artist.
Yeah, all of us are musicians or have been and do creative work of many kinds. The film is about a group of musicians inside of a high-control religion who use self-expression to find their voice and use critical thinking and eventually leave that faith group. And the movie delves into what happens when that happens and then sort of landing on the outside of that community.
So what's the faith group?
Jehovah's Witnesses.
Were you guys Jehovah's Witnesses?
Yes.
All 3 of you?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's how we know each other. Was that back in the day, Ryan, who's with us, he set up a indie record label, which he can talk more about, called Nuclear Gopher. And that was the way a lot of us creative, weirdo Jehovah's Witness kids that maybe didn't always fit in the church setting could find a home where our creative expression, be it music or art or filmmaking, was championed. And I wouldn't be where I'm at today doing the things I'm doing if it wasn't for what Ryan and them started back as kids.
Yeah, Nuclear Gopher came out of my family initially. My whole family is made up of musicians, and it was just kind of what we did as kids. And when we were able to bring it online, like really early internet, like mid-90s, we discovered there were all these other Jehovah's Witness kids who also wanted to make music, and it sort of took on a life of its own.
So let me ask you guys a question, right? So the kind of music you guys make is not accepted in the Jehovah Witness Church?
That wasn't really ever a problem. We generally, we're able to make whatever music we want. I mean, there's not a ton of, well-known Jehovah's Witness musicians, but, like Larry Graham and Prince are both local to us because we're in the Twin Cities area, and Larry Graham was in Sly and the Family Stone and Graham Central Station, and he's an elder out in the Mount congregation. So it's not completely unprecedented. We generally weren't making music that would cause any trouble. Like some people might occasionally get a little bent out of shape. We had a couple of cases where, like, a band was a little too loud or a little too distorted at a party, and some elder kind of pulled a plug or got a little upset. But mostly we were pretty good at keeping it within acceptable boundaries, because we all kind of wanted to continue to do our religion and continue to we all wanted to make it through the end of the world and Armageddon and everything, but we also wanted to make music, and we all felt a little bit like we were just culturally out of step with our congregations. But yeah, no, we weren't really rocking the boat too much. Scott probably rocked the boat a little bit more than the rest of us did back in the day.
So are you guys still Jehovah Witnesses or no longer Jehovah Witnesses?
Definitely not. Long way out.
You too, Anthony?
You can tell because we have facial hair.
Yeah. Yeah, we all have beards. The thing about it is like kind of the central, like, emotional storyline of this documentary. Yes, it's about the music and what we all experience as kids, but it's also about the fallout, the traumatic fallout that comes when you decide, well, maybe you don't believe this anymore. And in those cases, you're in a situation then when in leaving, that means you're going to be estranged from all your family, all your friends, your bands are going to break up, your life starts over. And how does it start over, And it's about that creative expression that, and making powerful art that kind of gets you through.
So, at one point in my life, I dated a girl that I guess you could say deflected from the Jehovah Witness Church or left the Jehovah Witness Church. And
Nice.
she hated religious people. Like, she would be so upset whenever religion or church or anything like that was mentioned. And she was like, that was because of everything that happened to her when she was growing up in the Jehovah Witness Church. And the way she described it, it was almost traumatic in a sense. And she was just like, oh, I hate that church. I hate that church. I hate that church. What about that church brings out those feelings and emotions, do you guys feel?
I would say the film dives into exactly why, and that is everyone who gets out of that religion, leaves or is kicked out, walks away, whatever the situation, they get cut off from their family through shunning. It's a very extreme form of emotional abuse where you just don't ever talk to your family, or they just won't ever talk to you again. And the film dives into how that works. We demonstrate that in the film through one person's story, and he's here, Ryan Sutter.
So, Ryan, you were shamed out of your family or shunned out of your family?
Absolutely, yeah. When I started expressing that I didn't conform to the Watchtower beliefs and started saying that I wasn't going to stay on as a witness, every member of my family cut me off. In the last 20 years, I've only seen them a handful of times. And it's not so much a choice, it's kind of enforced. The Jehovah's Witnesses are essentially both a religion and also kind of a little bit of a business. There is a publishing company called the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, and they publish all the literature, and that's what all the witnesses believe. And the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society has very severe mandated requirements that if somebody leaves, you're not allowed to talk to them under penalty of your own potential punishment. So It's if you get seen having dinner with me, for example, if my dad saw me or had dinner with me and somebody saw that, he could get in trouble.
By who?
And he could get kicked out. By the other Jehovah's Witnesses.
Like when you say
They
trouble.
could kick him out.
Okay, but like what's the benefits of being a Jehovah's Witness?
Good question.
I was born into it, so I never had a choice. So I defer that.
The benefits, I don't know. I can speak to why it appeals to people. It appeals to them because, it gives them a sense of community, a form of love, a group where as long as they are Jehovah's Witnesses in good standing, they can be welcomed basically by other Jehovah's Witnesses all around the world. As a Jehovah's Witness, those were the things that I valued. So it was kind of nice where I could be growing up in St. Louis as a musician and travel up to Minneapolis and play a festival, a rock festival with Ryan. And because, we were all Jehovah's Witnesses. But when you get kicked out, you realize that community, these people you thought loved you, when they just immediately no longer talk to you, you kind of see how it was maybe more of an illusion of community and family and love than what the actuality of it is.
Yeah, there's a sense of the witnesses very much believe that they are the only true religion. All other Christianity of any other stripe or flavor is false religion, and anybody, even other Christians, like other people who you would think they would be fairly well aligned with, maybe with some doctrinal differences, they would consider worldly or outside. So they treat themselves and each other with a lot of love and a lot of, like Anthony just said, I remember my brother going on his honeymoon. He went to Jamaica, and he didn't stay at a resort. He stayed with a local family he had never met, because as soon as he showed up at the Kingdom Hall, they just put him up. And there's a sort of that global feeling of like kind of brotherhood and sisterhood among all Jehovah's Witnesses from all countries. They don't take up arms in military wars or anything. They're all conscientious objectors, so no witnesses are ever shooting other witnesses. So that's how they get people to feel very committed, because they create a very closed space and a very connected space where you feel like everybody who is a fellow witness is a fellow extended family member. The downside to that is anybody who isn't a fellow witness is kind of an enemy, and that there's a lot of, it's still just people, so there's still a lot of things that go on in the world of the witnesses that are really bad. I mean, there's people who die from not taking blood transfusions. There's a lot of child sex abuse. There's a lot of things inside of that organization, and it's traumatizing, I think, for a lot of people. But I don't think there's anything that really gives you that you couldn't get in any other church setting. If the people in your congregation of Lutherans or Baptists or whatever, you can still love each other, right? Like I think the witnesses oversell that's really special or unique. But I think that's what gets people to stay, is they create a community and a family there, and that's also the fear. Because if you leave, you don't know anybody who's not a witness. You're not close to anybody who's not a witness. You're not even close to your own family members if they're not witnesses. So it creates a real disincentive to question anything or to go out.
It almost sounds like a gang in a sense. I grew up in something similar. It's called the 7-Day Adventists. I don't know if you guys are familiar with these guys.
I'm in a house of that group right now. Like the owners of this place that are like living in the building next door, and they have all their church books everywhere. And there's a church down the street, like living in the Seventh-day Adventist house.
The witnesses are actually an Adventist offshoot, so yeah, they're very closely related.
Exactly, and like you said, the sense of community and unity, and wherever you go, they say, okay, yeah, we share the same religion as you, we do the same thing as you, but same thing you said, then everybody else is an enemy. And it's like, oh, don't talk to this person, don't talk to that person. Then they want you to marry within that religion and raise your children up in there. And even when, like you said, things happen because there's humans involved. But with those type of situations, they oftentimes like to sweep things under the rug and pretend like certain things don't happen because of the image of the brand to stay clean. So they like to have those perfect clean images, and I feel like that's what traumatizes the people involved, because they have to pretend like it never happened. And sometimes there's a lot of traumatic things that happens in these churches and in these groups that's covered by, the brand. So what do you guys think about that?
I think you said it perfectly. That all checks out with the Jehovah's Witnesses too. The protecting of their image is the number one thing. They litigate against a lot of them. Like, they know that there's a problem in their religion. They're fighting battles in court in many, many countries constantly, and they are just trying to protect their image and say like it didn't happen, but then they pay $40 million to a victim every year, or $10 million, or $8 million, or $700,000, or whatever the number is. And there's class action lawsuits, and there's like 14 Jehovah's Witness rapists on trial in Pennsylvania right now, all simultaneously. There was another one, but he killed himself the day the cops came to get him. Like, then the religion's like, they don't want this news out there, and so they cover it and they pay off hush money and they settle out of court constantly.
Yeah, it's pretty extreme. Like our film focuses on the shunning aspect of it, but like probably one of the most egregious things is this child sex abuse that goes on within the church, and it's often covered up. It's the police are not involved because, as you said, it has to protect the image of the brand. There's an impetus to keep these things secret, and it allows a lot of bad things to go on. And I'll be straight up to say, I'm shocked if I meet a former witness that hasn't experienced some kind of child sex assault or knows firsthand somebody who does, because it's a common experience. When I talk to other Jehovah's Witnesses, it's been a common experience within my own congregations, within my families. I mean, it's a major, major thing that gets swept under the rug because it's paramount to portray the religion as basically God's organization on earth, basically a human paradise on earth.
All of us that grew up in these religious households, and especially those that inherited a religion and wasn't able to pick it, we oftentimes go through life defending this religion. And that's part of being a part of a religion, is defending your faith. But then sometimes we find parts of our religion that at times could be contradictory to our beliefs or even to common sense. And then, like you said, there comes a shunning aspect, or you feel alienated. So what advice would you have to a young person on how to deal with that? Like no longer being part of a community or dealing with the shunning.
You brought up a couple interesting things. One is like part of your faith is defending it, almost like a tribalism, like my tribe versus your tribe. My religion is better than your religion, or my religion is valuable for some reason, and it's valuable in society. We need it to be around. I'm part of it. That kind of tribalism is interesting, as from like a social anthropologic sense. And you see it happen with sports teams, for example. Like, I will always fight for the Jets or whatever the team is, right? But the shunning, I mean, it's a big decision to make, to walk away from a community, and it's not easy. But one of the things our film demonstrates is people who we've humanized the religious experience, and then we show how a couple of different people have sort of logically and emotionally, and like they've done the research to like, and they found that this wasn't for them, or they didn't believe in God anymore, or they don't believe exactly what the religion teaches, and you kind of have to believe everything or you're not one of them. And it's like you have to, then you're alone in the religion. Even though you have a community, you're alone there. So it can be really difficult, and a lot of people have challenges for years trying to figure out what to do, and like keeping secrets from their own lover or their family or their loved ones or community, because they don't want to be outed as someone who thinks differently than the group, the main group. And that can be challenging. Leaving is also challenging because then you're like actually separate. But we wanted to show in the film, and I think we do a good job of demonstrating a group of people who found a path to get past that difficult stage and then have a valuable life after that. Even though it's challenging, we're not saying it's not challenging. It's one of the best things I've done for my life, and it's not for everybody, but yeah. Watch the movie.
Yeah, anybody who's going through that kind of separation, the shunning, I mean, I can't lie, it's going to be tough, it's going to be challenging, it's going to be hard. But I think the power of the Witness Underground documentary is it shows a way that's, you don't have to self-destruct. You can figure out what your passions are in life, and now that you have the freedom to pursue them, you can dive into those passions and, find new people and new friends and new collaborators that are going to help you achieve your dreams that have been maybe put on hold in your life. So I think that's the advice I would give. I mean, I think like Witness Underground, just as Scott says, really kind of, it doesn't just point the finger and say, oh, this religion's bad, that it kind of shows you a way through it to a life that's definitely more free and a lot more healthy, in my opinion. And I think it just does a great job.
So Ryan, as someone that actually went through the situation, how did you deal with the shunning and the alienation?
Well, there was a lot of sort of resetting every expectation I had. When I left the religion, my wife left, my family cut me off, I lost my record label and community, but I still had my son. And so I had a person in my life who did not shun me or cut me off or anything. And in fact, he was like 9 years old at the time, and I remember telling him, and he was just like, oh, I was wondering when you were going to stop being a witness, basically. So what was great was I had a motivation to understand what I really stood for and understand what I really believed for him. And that was enough of a lifeline that I was able to meet new people, I was able to make new friends. I did a lot of writing, I did a lot of therapy, I did a lot of reading. I attended some other churches just to see what was out there and become familiar with the world that I hadn't known about. And it was a really intentional and very intense, like 2 to 4 years of mental deprogramming and mental reprogramming. And now I have, and what was great was in doing that, I did a lot of that where I actually posted things online and blogged about what I was exploring and what I was learning. And that actually ultimately helped lead to other people coming out as well from my old community. So I started regaining some of the people from the past, some of whom are in this documentary. I started making new friends. I met a new person, love interest, and we dated and we got married, and we've been together now for like 17, 18 years. So, it was really devastating, and I didn't get an easy ride out of it, and I never really did get my main core family members back. But I made music. I recorded a bunch of albums. I went to therapy. I did a lot of writing, and I did a lot of reading, and I gave it time. And it ultimately, like, there was a time about 5 or 6 years after I had left the Witnesses, and I was actually in the basement having a recording session with Eric and Cindy, who are in the band High TV in the movie, and we were downstairs working on actually some of the earlier High TV stuff, and the doorbell rang, and I went upstairs, and it was a Jehovah's Witness sister, and she didn't recognize me because I had grown a beard, and she hadn't seen me in a few years since she was a little older, but she started showing me the Watchtower and Wake, and she said, so are you familiar with these magazines? And I said, yes, sister. I don't know if you recognize me, but I'm Ryan Sutter in your congregation until a few years back, and I hope you guys are having a great day going door to door, but I'm not a witness anymore. And she looked a little taken aback, and she said, "Do you think you found something better?" And now nobody had ever asked me that, and I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." It was just this huge moment for me to be like, "Yeah, this is better. This is way better." I mean, it was like hard, but if a witness comes to my door and asks me flat out, "Do you think your life is better now?" the answer was just, duh, of course.
What made you leave?
Hardcore disagreements and with the witnesses' teachings about science, ecosystems. They're kind of a literal creationist read on the Bible, and they believe, like, specifically that Noah's flood took place at a certain point in time, and that it was global and blah blah blah. And when I first learned about some of the evidence that would contradict that, and started thinking about like how ecosystems would have not been able to function according to the way the witnesses interpret the Garden of Eden and some of those other specific things, it just got me to start thinking about being a little more critically analytical of my beliefs. And it didn't mean right off the bat that I was going to throw everything out and chuck it all, but it made me get curious enough to do research and start to really look into the Bible, look into what it actually says in its original languages, parts of it that are not historically true according to archaeology or science, and which things are, and kind of working all that out for myself instead of taking it as given by the Watchtower Society. And I think in a lot of religions you could have done that and stayed in. Like if I was raised in the Methodists and I had my own interpretations of things, they're not going to boot me out for the rest of my life. But in the world of the witnesses, you can't question or doubt anything. You have to take everything they teach as exactly as they say. And if you think they're wrong about something, it becomes a real problem. And so I discovered things I thought they were right about and things I thought they were wrong about. And then I couldn't square it. I couldn't go door to door and risk my life over a blood transfusion or tell my son this was all the inerrant word when I knew things were wrong. So it just started that way, and it sort of tumbled beyond that. Not to get too much into where I wound up in terms of my own beliefs, but it started with questioning.
Do you believe in anything or practice anything now?
I'm sort of a agnostic Buddhist. Like I do Buddhist practice. I'm very open on the question of whether there is a supernatural. I don't worry about if there is or isn't at the moment, because I figure I can find that out someday if I die or something. So I'm pretty neutral on that. I don't attend any church.
So what about the rest of you? Are you guys Buddhist too?
I use the word dharmic maybe more, because
what does that mean?
Represents like thousands plus years of different versions of it, and there's wars fought. Like there's a war right now with Buddhists versus Islam, and they're killing people.
Buddhists versus Islam.
Yeah, in Bangladesh, 6 years ago, they ousted 1 million Islamic people because of their religion from Myanmar and Bangladesh. And there's a huge problem with human trafficking there now because of it. Anyways, the Buddhists aren't exactly all perfect all the time, but the dharmic practice is about looking inward to your subconscious using meditation, standard stuff you probably heard about or done at yoga if you've gone to yoga class ever. Just normal stuff about breathing and paying attention to what your thoughts are doing. I do that and I value that. I think it's helpful for learning how your brain actually works and how your subconscious chatter is, how you can change that and rewrite your own sort of operating system using some methods that are valuable to making your life better now and in the future.
And why you left the church, Scott?
Actually, so I directed the film, and it follows Ryan's story. Ryan just kind of describes some of it. I had a very similar experience as Ryan for very similar reasons, and that's one of the things I loved about including his project, because including his story in the film, is because I had such a similar thing. It was almost like including all the things that are included in the film are like little pieces of my story, being a musician in the religion. I'm not in the movie at all, but we follow a whole, like not just a band or like a person, we follow like an entire community of musicians as they kind of push on the boundaries of the religion, and they have their different reasons for leaving the religion, and how that all happens and what the rollout is from that. And I have those same experiences. But yeah, it was very much on the terms of what is the cognitive dissonance? It's an important term, and I think you kind of brought it up earlier, like having differences of opinion or belief than what your religion teaches, but still being a part of that religion. Like, how do you square the two? Like, Ryan was challenged with that. Like, he found it, he didn't want to stay in that turbulence of it, and I had a similar thing. And it was like reading physics and reading about science and reading about history and geology and archaeology, and like the stuff I was reading, that the experts in the planet, millions of people were not corroborating the story that the religion was teaching, and like living with those two different, completely incompatible ideas became too much over time. And I eventually was like, well, the one that is backed up by thousands, if not millions, of different reports on data, I'm going to stick with that one, because the one about from the Bible or from this religion specifically, it doesn't add up at all. There is no evidence to support this thing that they teach.
So let me ask you two questions.
It's important to differentiate the Bible versus what they teach, because they have their own interpretations.
So let me ask Scott two questions, right? Scott said that he refers to all these reports that were previously printed, and all the people who has testified that the things in the Bible are probably not true. But let's say on the other side, right? If we're just to play the other side, we can ask ourselves, how many times has the Bible been published? How many preachers have there been throughout history? How many people have preached the word of God? And how many Christians, or whether they're Jehovah's Witnesses or Baptists or Jewish or whatever it is, that's preaching the same doctrine, like how many of them have come across, So I think there's people fighting for each side, and I feel like they have their own reasons for fighting it, and that's why we're asking for your reasons why you guys are against it.
It's not so much that any of us are against it, it's more that, I speak for myself, I'm not against a religion or the Bible. I just don't think it's as valuable as I used to, and I definitely don't think, I don't really use it in my life. I mean, it's a collection of literature. Like, Bible, it's from Biblioteca. It's a library of books. It's 66 books, and it was the books that somebody thought was a great collection. They put them together. Like, there are other books too that I find have more value than that collection of books, and I think society also does that. We have amazing libraries across the world filled with other kinds of knowledge that are not that. And, a lot of what's in the Bible is based in Greek mythology, like a lot of the New Testament is based in Homer and the Iliad. There's actual mythology, or like what's the deity from Egyptian mythology? Horus, like Horus, like the supernatural stuff that Jesus does. Horus did a lot of that stuff, and so like, well, where did they draw that from? Did actually Jesus do that, or is it actually a Horus thing? Like, just questioning that and looking into it. I'm not saying it's invalidates the entire collection of literature, but there's new literature. Like, we could have another book added to the Bible that maybe like included how evolution works, and just one page from Wikipedia might do the trick, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we tried real hard with the documentary not to make this a religious debate, because we're all in agreement amongst ourselves that the important part is to be free to learn what you believe.
Yeah, of course.
By your own research, your own conscious meditation, your own. It's your path. It's your life. You have to live it. You are responsible ultimately for what you do with it. And there's a line in a Jehovah's Witness song that says, "We must act together as one. Independence wisely we shun. harmony and oneness of mind to bring peace of rarest kind. It's really creepy when you think about that. Like, it's basically like we have to all think the same thoughts. We have to all read the same things. We have to all be in the same place. And that was part of my like deconversion from the Watchtower involved going to different churches and talking to different people and hearing what they believed and hearing what they had to say. And the one thing I committed myself to, and I continue to is that I don't judge anybody for their beliefs, as long as they're not hurting other people with what they're believing, including the witnesses. Like, I say it in the documentary, if they just had some beliefs that I didn't agree with or didn't share, but they didn't treat people badly, I wouldn't worry about it. I have friends who are of all sorts of different religious perspectives and beliefs, and the one thing we don't do, argue religion amongst each other, because it doesn't benefit us. But if we can discuss it and talk about where we feel things make sense and where we align, then I'm always happy to have those conversations. I enjoy them, but I don't like the debating, and and the documentary doesn't go real far into like, okay, here's why this or that with the Watchtower teachings, because it's not a super productive thing to do, and it doesn't really help people connect on their shared humanity and connect on their develop mutual respect for each other. And I think that's the thing that personally is my goal with this documentary, is I want people to respect other people's freedom of conscience. I want people to respect other people's freedom of belief and to be able to allow that to happen. And that's not something that's allowed inside this particular religion.
So Anthony, let's ask you, because we haven't heard from you. What was the reason why you left the Jehovah's Witness Church? You on mute, Anthony. Anthony, you on mute.
There we go. Sorry. It was questioning my beliefs. I feel like Scott and Ryan came at it from a scientific angle. Basically, my deconversion was just reading the Bible. And in reading the Bible, kind of with an open mind, that you could see how it wasn't always aligned with what I was being taught. Unfortunately, within the witnesses, you can't hold a contrary thought, even in your mind. It's considered apostasy. And so when elders found out and started looking at me suspiciously and found out, my beliefs weren't 100% in line, it was, determined that I was a child of Satan. That was actually said on the platform against me, that I was a Judas, and, that I was an apostate. And so that was kind of my exile from that.
What exactly did you do for them to call you a traitor?
What's that? How do they call me?
No, I said, what exactly did you do?
I shared a private email with someone within the congregation, expressing my thoughts about something that wasn't totally in line. And I was brought back into the back room and asked, did I write the email? And I had to admit that I did, because I wanted to be truthful and honest. And that just kind of started the ball rolling with these judicial committees and stuff, these basically church legal systems they have in place, where you go there, you have at least 3 men that kind of sit as a judge, jury, and executioner. You're not allowed to have any kind of witnesses there, any kind of defense. It's just you. And, they basically had asked, do you believe this? And I said, no, I did not believe this. And so it was pretty cut and dry. I couldn't remain within that religion anymore.
What did you write in the email?
It's kind of like technical and niche and stuff like that, and I don't know, it's just kind of like a little Jehovah's Witness thing. But basically, the Jehovah's Witness doctrine, they preach that the United Nations was the wild beast of Revelation, and churches that supported the United Nations was the harlot on that wild beast. But what I had found out was that while the Watchtower was pointing their finger and condemning other religions for doing this, that they had secretly maintained a relationship with the United Nations Department of Public Information and actively supported it through their literature. So it was, like I said, it's kind of technical niche for that doctrine, but I saw it as an act of hypocrisy and one that I couldn't swear, and that was just kind of the initial thing that sparked me to start thinking. And I had made the mistake, or maybe it wasn't a mistake because it got me out, but I had shared what I had found about that relationship with someone else in the congregation.
And they told on you?
Yes. Basically, so yeah.
Wow.
But that's just kind of how it is. You can't share private beliefs with others. You can't share private doubts with others unless you know they won't narc you out to the congregation. But
and it's hard to know if they will or not. It's a really strange gray area to navigate whether or not someone is a safe person to talk to about your own questions. Like, I found some information on the internet and it goes against what they teach. Like, that person might then go to the leadership and then you're out. Like, the next day you lose your family. It's like the risk of never talking to your mom again for telling someone you found a piece of information on the internet is really, really big. It's a really big risk.
You guys
crazy that there's that kind of control.
Wow. You guys said something about beards, right? Like, what's the thing about beards in Jehovah's Witnesses?
Jehovah's Witnesses have their own version of Jesus who has a beard, and you're not allowed to have a beard, and I don't know why. I actually don't know the answer, but Jehovah's can't have a beard.
I know why.
Yeah.
I know why. It's the same reason that IBM didn't allow beards for their salespeople, or the New York Yankees didn't allow beards for their players. When the Witnesses formalized even the founder of the Witnesses had a beard, Charles Taze Russell. But in the 1940s and 1950s, they had this guy, Nathan Knorr, and he was the president of the Watchtower Society, and he was the one who actually named the religion the Jehovah's Witnesses. Or maybe it was Rutherford named them the Jehovah's Witnesses, but Knorr basically decided that we need to have, collectively, the witnesses had to have this sort of image when they went door to door so that people would listen to them at the doors, and they had to be clean cut. And beards were considered at the time to be not as effective on people selling. They would reduce people's trust. So they said, well, we can't have beards. And then it became just basically like this weird fetish. Like, I think today, if people see somebody at their door with a beard, it doesn't matter. But that's just been sort of lingering on for 70 years since they put it in place. And that it's a funny way to, when you see somebody that you used to know as a witness and they have a beard, you immediately know they're not a witness anymore. So it's kind of a fun signifier once we're out. And so like, oh, hey, Bob, you got a beard. I can talk to you and you'll actually talk back to me. That's awesome. So that's why we all keep our beards, I think.
Wow.
It's a personal thing about every time I shave, I remember like having to shave, and I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, you always shave just before you're heading to the Kingdom Hall.
Yeah.
So what are some other things you have to do besides shave?
Buy and wear suits. A lot of suits.
Yeah, a really poor fitting suit. I was going to say the same thing.
And like 5 meetings a week. Like, witnesses don't go to church on Sunday. They go on Sunday, at least when we were growing up, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, and then door to door on Saturday. You almost never go more than like 48 hours without doing a thing. And you always got to have your suit and your tie and your beard, your face, your shaving. And yeah, it's a commitment.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty restrictive in that, like, you're not allowed to get involved. You can go to public education or you can go to school, but you're not allowed to get involved in like extracurricular activities, like
what?
Football team or being in the school band or like be in the theater or something like that.
You have to stay a virgin?
There's a lot of restrictions on that.
You have to stay a virgin too?
Oh yeah.
We didn't really want to get into
Until
that,
marriage.
Unfortunately. Yeah,
Okay.
It's very, very strict.
No sex outside of marriage, period.
Yeah, sex outside of marriage is a quick exit if you're not sorry and they're not sympathetic. yeah, that's really discouraged. And because of, I think, that culture, you have this weird thing where, like, you see a lot of Jehovah's Witness kids getting married at 20, 21, 22, sometimes earlier than that, because of those restrictions, I think.
19.
So, yeah, I waited till 20, I think.
You got married at 19?
Yep.
You got
6
married at
months out of
20?
high school is the only way I could have sex.
Wow. Was it worth it?
I got my kid out of the deal. I think my son was worth it. Yeah.
Yeah. Me and my wife, we were doing whatever we were going to do as a couple in secret, but, like, yeah, we did get married young as well. I think she just turned 19, and I was a little bit older. And, yeah, the marriage ultimately didn't work out, because when we got out of the religion, we had, options of how we wanted to live our lives, and we were no longer compatible that way. But I was definitely blessed to have her come with me during that as an experience, so I didn't have to do it alone. And like Ryan, I got a beautiful daughter out of it, so it worked out.
But I'm on my third marriage.
Wow.
So the first one didn't work out because she left the religion. The second one didn't work out because I left the religion. And then the third one worked out because neither of us ever cared about the religion by the time we got together.
Wow. What about you, Scott? You ever been married too?
I narrowly escaped that trap. I did date a Jehovah's Witness, so I had like a half in, half out experience, but I did date my first Jehovah's Witness girlfriend just in my last year of being in the religion. And I sort of had my wake up leaving experience when we were dating, and kind of early in the dating, like 9 months in or something. And I was like, hey, I love you, but this is also going on. And we had this whole like thing we had to like work through together, and then we decided like, okay, let's travel, let's have a physical journey while we have a deconversion journey. And we went through Central America. We like sold all of our stuff and like just hit the road, and that was a great learning experience. And we, by the end of that trip, kind of realized that like, oh, we are kind of incompatible now, and because we both want to do completely different things. Like in the religion, maybe it would have worked, but like outside of it, it's like without infinite possibilities. That just seemed like a dividing position. And I respect her, and she's doing good. And whatever, that's 10 years ago, 11 years ago.
And what about now?
Yeah. I've been going through like a short durations of relationships over the last decade, and there's a couple important ones, and there's one that's starting now, so I'm happy about that. But it's nothing to do, actually that's wrong, she's also an ex-witness, damn it. Yeah. There's
I didn't even know that. Ladies and ex-witness? I didn't know.
She never got baptized, so she's like connected to it. Her family's in it.
When I left the witnesses, I started hanging out at bars, and I ended up marrying my bartender, which I'm told you're not supposed to do that.
Oh, wow.
My dad didn't tell me that life lesson. But surprisingly, it worked out. Right?
Yeah.
But no, it's worked out awesome. She's an artist. She loves traveling around. She loves the off-grid lifestyle, and that's a rarity. So, and it's going good. We've been together for 10 years now.
Wow.
Congrats, man.
So you guys all grew up together?
Basically, no, we didn't know each other until we were in our 20s. And we all met each other because Ryan made a website about the music scene. I was in like the farther orbit in another state, and I heard about this Jehovah's Witness music scene, and I was in a band myself. And Anthony had something kind of similar, right?
Yeah, Anthony was even further out. He was down in St. Louis.
And Ryan's based in Minnesota, Minneapolis, so like it's like a middle Great Lakes Midwestern orbit of the music scene kind of coming together.
But you guys know each other for a good amount of time, I'm guessing.
I got to know Ryan during an interview 5 years ago for the first time, and Anthony and I just met a couple months ago working on the film, and he's helping out as a co-producer, especially with Kickstarter, helping us get it launched into the world. He has a lot of experience with film, so we're kind of just getting to know each other right now, actually.
Yeah, actually, the first time Scott and I met, he pointed a camera at me and had me start talking, and it's one of the main threads of the whole documentary. That was literally the first time we ever met.
Wow.
I'm excited for you to watch it, Rickard.
I knew Ryan back in the day. nuclear Gopher music scene, because me and my wife at the time, we were in a band. We went up and played a show. He and I kind of went our different ways in life, but it's through Scott's documentary that kind of has brought us back to reconnect. And so it's been awesome to kind of reconnect with Ryan, to meet Scott, and like look forward to beyond this, with this underground documentary, you know, what we'll do next.
So speaking of
we definitely want to get some more creative projects underway.
Of course. Speaking of the documentary, if someone wanted to support the documentary and support the Kickstarter, how could they do that? Or where can they do it?
There's a live Kickstarter, and our website redirects to it. It's witnessunderground.com, and that website will be live forever. And right now is the first time the film has been available. So once if we hit our number, you'll get charged if you support the project, and then you can download the film. So, and there's not just the film. What's cool is like all the music from the Nuclear Gopher community is available. It's 12 albums. All the music from the people that left the religion and made even more music. There's, I think, 16 albums, and then there's Bill Beyond the Project, the Witness Underground podcast. Their music and albums and vinyl and multiple CDs are available as well, including 9 books. And like, there's so much more than that. I don't know if that's selling it, but like, this isn't just a film. It's like a whole community, a global community of musicians and artists. And we've put like 5 years of effort into the film and this campaign. This is everything we've ever dreamed of to put into, to make available with the movie. Is now available, and some of it for the first time ever, and it's available right now. So you go to the Kickstarter, and actually we have to actually wrap up to put Howard out in a minute here, but we have 44 people to go, and if we get 44 more people to back the project at any level, it unlocks a sponsor's grant of $5,000. It's like huge for us. We could fund our whole Kickstarter today if anyone's seeing this and is interested in getting involved. Like, today's a really special day, but we're going for 2 more weeks in the campaign.
Okay.
I just refreshed the page, Scott, and it's 43 people to go.
Yes. We'll do it. We'll get there with your help. Thank you, Rickard, for having us on.
Yeah. And tell them one last time before you guys go where to find it at.
Witnessunderground.com.
Okay. Do you guys still pray or no, not really?
Pray.
Yeah.
To who?
I don't know. I'm asking.
I pray.
Okay, so who do you pray to, Anthony?
I don't know. I feel like there's some kind of force out there. You know, maybe not in a God sense of way, but you know.
So go ahead, Anthony.
Creative energy out there.
So close us out with a prayer, Anthony. Go ahead.
What? You want us to close us out with a prayer?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to be thankful today because, you know, this documentary is powerful. It's important. It's filled a wound in my life that I didn't even know I had. So I'm thankful to reconnect with Ryan. I'm thankful to work with Scott. I'm thankful for you and what you're doing and having us on these shows and getting the word out about what people are doing. So I'm just going to ask that, you know, we go on keeping on, we build, we progress, we do awesome things, we collaborate, and we just shine brightly. So that's my prayer.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, gentlemen. Take care.
Thanks a lot, buddy.
Take care.
Appreciate
Thank you.
Bye.
This is wonderful.
It's the real world. It's the real world. It's the real